How many times have you made a New Year's resolution and it didn't follow through on it? Or, you wanted to see some behavior change in your life and it never happened. Well, we'll all go through that, and that's very true. But in this session, you're going to see two of the best methods that I know of to bring lasting change into our life. Overcoming certain behavior and changing habits that we don't want in our life anymore, but we've failed over and over again. Now, I know there are a lot of methods that we can use. We could have talked about them. I just wanted to share two of the best ones that I know of. So let's get right into it. There you go. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Enthusiastic crowd. Thank you. Appreciate it. Very enthusiastic. I appreciate that deeply. And it is true, you are the best audience that I've ever had a chance to share information with, so I just deeply thank you. Well, I'm excited about this session because it's the session that talks about what we can do to speed us on to starting our own new generation. If we came from a home where there was a lot of unhealthy behavior, or we're in a marriage that's unhealthy, if we've developed some habits or addictions that we just can't seem to break, and we make those New Year's resolutions. How many of you have made those New Year's resolutions where you say, this year is going to be different, I'm going to do this? Let me see your hands. I know all of it's right. And yet it seems to fizzle out. It doesn't seem to be something that lasts. And this is the session for us. And I'm only going to share two things that I have found are very powerful. And I could be sharing 10 things, and I'll mention that there are other ways that we change and stay improved and where it lasts. But these are the two best that I know of, the most powerful ones. Otherwise, we keep using the same methods, and I could say, are you satisfied today with the results you're getting from the methods you're using today? I love that question. And if you say, no, I'm not really, then you say, well, we ought to use a different method then, don't you think? And it's kind of like the two moose hunters that were up in Canada, and they had shot this great big moose, bigger than usual. And they couldn't get it out because they had two horses, pack horses, but it was just too big for the horses. And so they had their cellular phones with them, and they... This is the modern, and they called in to have one of those airplanes fly into the lake, they land on the water, and they talked these people into doing it. And the guy flies in, and he says, I don't know, it's a big moose. I don't know if I can take off. And we've done this before. Don't worry about it. You'll make it. So they strapped the moose on both of the float things, and half on each one. And the guy says, you know what? Look how far we're sinking down here. I don't think I'm the pilot. I know. We've done this before. Will you relax? It's going to work. The pilot said, all right. So he takes off, and he crashes at the, other end of the lake into the trees, and they're hanging all over the place, and one of them's down by the water, and the hunter. And then one of the hunters calls the other one and says, hey, George, how'd we do? He said, well, we're about 50 feet further than last year. See, that's, is that not what we do? Do the same thing year after year after year after year. But we're a little further. But it doesn't get it. And so that's why these sessions, especially this one this morning, is just specifically some things we can do to see change come into our life. And just to review for a second, we talked about being in unhealthy homes. And if we're not allowed to think or to talk or to feel. And if we don't feel connected, if we've been violated in the sense of our, covering around our personhood, we could say, the boundary, the fence around us, then we get cut like our skin and we can get infected with anger. And it's the people who are filled with a lot of anger that need a session like this to give them hope. And that it is possible to overcome these things. And I'm going to start with a pretty extreme story, but it gives us the basis that whether it's a major thing in our life or a minor thing, we can use the same ideas. But this is major. One night about 11:30, my wife and I had already gone to bed. I get a telephone call. It's a respected leader in our community, well known. And I talked with him and he says, I hate to call you at this hour, but my wife and I are in tremendous conflict. I can't stand her. She can't stand me. I want to leave her. And I know what that's going to do to the community. And we need help. Could we come over tonight and talk? I was already in bed. And I wanted to say, we could see you like right away in the morning. But my wife, what do you think? She says, yeah, right, let's do it. So I say, yeah, come on over. So we get up, get dressed. He comes over with his wife and they're not speaking. She sits on the couch. I'm right across from her and he's at a chair. My wife's here and I start listening. And she gets real upset at one point, throws the pillows around and I'm trying to calm them down. They're really upset. And then he says something in one of the discussions and she really is upset. She's a little petite thing, but strong as can be. I think she was raised on a farm. And she kicked this coffee table, big, heavy, thick. We don't have it anymore. But it was a big... and it slid across the carpet and hit me in the shins instantly and cut me. And of course it hurt. And then she's out the back door. She's leaving. She's running away. She doesn't want to be in this room with this man. And he goes out the front door. My wife goes after him. I go after her. I grab her and say, hey, we can work this out. And, well, I don't want to be here. And she's trying to get out. She's shaking, and then I'm holding onto her and she's trying to get away and she's bending my two fingers here and hurting me. And I'm pulling her back into the house and I get her down and I'm calming her down and saying, we can work this out. It will work out. It seems impossible, I know, but it can work. And I'm just holding her. He comes back in, they're staring at each other. So I'm thinking, I've listened to a lot of stuff and I think I deserve the right to say something, right? At this point, like give some advice. So I said, well, I have listened and I have some ideas for you. And he goes, oh, I am so tired. It's been such a tough day. I can't take any more. I haven't said anything. They leave my house and I'm irritated. I'm thinking, this is ridiculous. And we did this a couple more times. And then it finally came out in one of the sessions that what was really happening to him is that he was sexually addicted. And he's already diseased his wife 3 times. And the reason why she was going to go to somebody or get this thing exposed somehow is to bring this to the surface. And so I listened to all this stuff. This man, I watched him. I still know him to this day. I see he and his wife are still together and they're doing great as a couple. And even though a lot of things that he did to her and the abuse and the unhealthy behavior. And as I got into his past, his father not only hated him, but his father told him verbally that you're not my son. Now you can stay in this home, but I don't claim you as my son. I don't like you. He accused him of being illegitimate, which he wasn't. But he accused him of that. And he said, therefore, you're not my son. Well, he grew up with no love, no closeness to a dad and a tremendous pain. And the way he medicated that pain was through the addiction of sexual experiences. So when we understand what's going on in people's lives, it helps us have a lot more compassion and tolerance for them. So anyway, he did the very 2 things that I'm talking about, additional things for sure, but these 2 things. The first thing he did is the first thing that I had to do, first thing that I see people have to do if they want to see new generation change, broken habits, is we have to own our own problems by taking full responsibility for our future and have a clear plan of action. In other words, I own this. I'm me. I own the situation that I find myself into. Whether it's a lot of unhealthy things from my past or my marriage or my friendships, if I'm single, whatever I find myself into, the buck stops with me. It's up to me now. I own it all. It's almost like this. Every one of us, as you know, I believe that all of us are very valuable. So it's a good thing we have a Mercedes. And all of us are like this car in a sense. You see, the warranty's up on this car. If we're an automobile, we have to assume that we did have guarantees for a while and warranties for a while, but it's up. We've gone the years, we've gone the miles. It's all up for us as adults. We have to say, if this thing breaks down, we have to go get it fixed. Too many people in our country are depending upon other people and their mate or their kids or government. We got a mentality that they'll take care of me. No, that's all over in our country. We've got to assume full responsibility and say, it stops with me, and whatever it takes, I'm willing to go into the future, and I'll find a plan, and somehow it will happen. That's what we have to do today in our responsibility with ourselves. So that's what I did. That's what this man did. He assumed the responsibility. Couldn't blame his father anymore. Couldn't come to the place where he was looking back in the past and saying he did do this a lot. He said, well, the reason I'm the way I am is because the way my dad treated me, so I have a right to do these things. No, it's just going to keep going downhill for sure. Well, what I did and what I see people doing that change is when they assume full responsibility. So the first thing under assuming responsibilities, we do this by understanding the results of our heritage. Now, this man had to understand the results of his heritage, like I have. And in the mobiles that we showed you, we have to know whether we were raised in a home that was dysfunctional, unhealthy, whatever our situation. If it's out of balance, that's the way we were raised. All right, I need to assume and understand my own heritage. So we have to know what we've done. This is what I've done with my health. And it's a similar way we do with our life as far as our relationships and our happiness. I inherited my father's liver. That's what the doctors tell me. My father died of a heart attack in his 50s. I'm 53. My brother died of a heart attack at 51. And that was about, 5 years ago or so, and 4 or 5 years ago. My oldest brother had a massive heart attack at 51. So that when I was 47 years old and my brother died of that heart attack, it just struck me that I only had 4 years of life left. And I realized that it's, all the doctors and insurance companies tell you that this is it. This is what you've inherited. Sorry about that. Enjoy your 4 years. And that's really how I felt. And it was like I had a terminal disease is really what I felt like. So I went through all the denial and the different emotions. But I had a doctor that began to work with me, and of course all the physicals and tests and blood and everything. And he began to just give me different things. And of course I've been exercising because I was aware of this for over 20 years. Now I don't like to exercise any more than anybody else does. I have to do something else when I exercise, but I decided to do it because I wanted to reverse the process that my father had given me physiologically. And I started taking 2 prescriptions. I can't give you their names, but you can go to cardiologists if that's your area. And one of them is a little pill, and it tells my liver to calm down, that everything's okay out in cell land. They're all full, and you don't have to produce any more cholesterol. It tricks it, which is a good thing, because my cholesterol was like 370, and now it's in the middle 150s or middle hundreds. That's just that one thing. Then I have a powder, and I hate to even mention this to you because this is prescription. You can't just go out and buy this in the drugstore. Can you imagine if we had an opportunity to buy a company where you could buy this over the counter? It's a powder where you, if you have eaten a nice meal that has a lot of fatty foods in it, but you really enjoy it, bacon and eggs, you can use this powder, and it doesn't allow the fat to digest in your system. Does that sound good or what? Those banana splits you've been missing and all that stuff? This is available, though. You can go to your doctor and ask for it if you're able to take it after the test and so on. But anyway, that's what I have. All right, last January, I had a total physical, and one of the cardiologists thought it looked like I had a heart attack. when I was, he thought maybe last couple of years or so, he thought maybe when I was 51. I thought, interesting, 51, I had a heart attack. So they did all that stuff, where they put the camera inside your heart. And it was a big experience. And I was supposed to be awake to tell the doctor, what I looked like inside. And I fell asleep. and it's not that I was relaxed. It's whatever they give you. And then when I got out of it, he woke me up. And he said to the nurse, get this guy out of here. He's got a baby's heart. What has happened, he said, is it's all been reversed. My system and exercise, and not that I've eaten anyway healthily or anything like that, because I ate like a rabbit for 2 years when I first did this, and my cholesterol went up. So it wasn't for me; it was basically the liver situation. So this is an example of saying to ourselves, "What's my past?" See, my brother would never do this. I used to say, "Ronnie, why don't you go take some?" I don't like doctors. They're our friends. I mean, they're not gonna. I don't like doctors. He said, I don't want to hear what they might say. What? And he never did. And I can admit to you that because we had become closer and closer, I was upset with him for a couple of years that he never took care of himself because I enjoyed being with him so much. Well, what I did is I recognized my heritage and I went to do something about it. That same thing is possible for you. You can look at it and say, what was my past? What do I need to do to change? Well, that's first thing. Second thing we do to assume 100% responsibility is figure out what level of maturity we are. And this is a very interesting observation. The more abuse we had growing up or received as an adult, the more it tends to freeze us into the immature level. So we tend to be more immature, more self-centered, more thinking of ourselves. And that's a common symptom of living in an unhealthy experience. I had a 41-year-old man in my office who was still blaming his father for his unhappiness. So he'd wasted all those years, but he didn't understand this concept. And I said, well, tell me some of the things. He said, well, the memory I have, the most vivid in my mind, is when I was 6 years old, my aunt sent me a ball and bat, and I went out to the garage to ask my dad to play ball with me, and he raised up from the hood of the engine and said, let's get something straight, son. I'm your father, not your friend. If you want to play baseball, go find one of your friends down the street. And went right back to fixing his car. Do you think that father had any idea what he did? No, basically not. He wasn't thinking he was ruining his child. His father probably did the same thing to him and his grandfather. But this little boy remembered that. And it bothered him all these years until he started taking responsibility for his life. One of the fun times in our life is, I think it was one of the first times we went to Hawaii as a family. And we were all excited about hitting the beach and being together. And I was delayed for some reason, and they all wanted to get going. And I said, well, I'm not ready. And they said, well, we're going to go just down to the beach. Come and find us. We'll be right down here. And I said, okay. And so I go down the beach later on, about a half hour later, and I'm walking up and down the beach as far as I can walk in both directions, and I can't find my family. And I get irritated. I get hurt. I think, wait a minute, we're over here in Hawaii as a family to be together. They've deserted me. I've been dejected, and I was hurt. And I was pouting around, in my immature level. And I waited in the place to get them when they got home. And eventually they did come home, and I was sulking and not speaking. They said, what's wrong with you? I said, well, you left me. And they said, well, we told you where we were going. I said, yeah, well, I went there and you weren't there. Well, we meant that other beach just a little bit further. And I said, well, that wasn't very clear. So I wasn't speaking to anybody. So thank God for Greg, because Greg has always had that capacity to confront his dad. And he said, Dad, I thought you wanted a new generation. And I said, I do. And he said, Dad, is this really the kind of example you want to pass on to me and the other kids? And I said, yeah, I know. I've asked you guys to help me, when I'm not. And now here's the very interesting thing. My wife said almost word for word. She said, you know what's interesting about this? This is exactly how your father acted when he was upset. He would be angry, sulk, be silent, and close everyone out. And she used to say to me, the worst thing you can do to me is when you become silent. Because we're not connected, we're not talking. And that was my punishment to them. But that was my dad. And so Greg sat us both down. He takes over because he's got enough of the strong personality to set us down. He says, okay, let's get this solved. Now, let me hear your side. Let me hear your side. All right, let's resolve this. Dad, don't you understand what you did here? Okay, Mom, do you understand it? Okay, that fixes it. Okay. Well, now, who knows what we did to him in the process, but he did fix us. But it's important for us just to take a look at what our level is. There may be some of us here in this room that primarily are only thinking of ourselves. And a lot of that can be traced right back to our past. Well, when we're assuming full responsibility, we have to come to a place where we make a commitment inside of us and with our wife and with our kids, where we say, I want a new generation. I want that. Do you want it? Let's go for it. It's really a deep commitment we make inside, and then we start going for it. And one of the most fun things I enjoy doing is finding a father, especially, I don't care what age, who says, that's right, I've spent too much time in the wrong areas. I want to do what it takes to have a new generation in my home. Well, I did that a couple, 3 years ago. Somewhere in his 60s, dad, classy dresser, president of his own company, large company. And we talked about his kids, and he said, I have messed up with my wife and my kids all my life. I've spent so much time building this company. I need to have a better relationship with my kids, but I don't know how. And he said, I didn't have it with my dad. I don't know how to have it with my kids. I said, why don't you go with me? Because, see, I love stuff like this. I love to jump right in the middle of a gigantic mess and hope it turns out okay. And but I said, I'll go with you. We'll go one child at a time. And I'd like to have you go and say to your children who are 27 years of age up, and let's face it and find out what we can do. So he called his son, the 27-year-old, who was a graduate student in psychology. And I thought, this will be fun. So we flew to the city and met in a hotel, and there was this sharp-looking son, and there was this sharp-looking dad staring at each other in this room. And I was the moderator. And I said, okay, the reason we're here is we're going to start a new relationship. We're going to start a new generation. We're going to start a new life here. Now, son, and we talked about a lot of, small talk, and I said, I want you to rate from 0 to 10, 0, rotten relationship. I want your father to hear this. 10, a great relationship. Overall, through the years, what kind of relationship have you had? And he, stammered and sort of, felt uncomfortable because this was the man that everybody looked up to, the big leader, the man who was distant, the man they felt unsafe around. And he's sort of fidgeting, and he says, well, about 2 or 3. And I knew it was about 0 or 1. And his dad said, son, I'm not surprised with that at all. He said, I know that I never spent the time I needed to spend. And I really feel bad about that. And then this man said this. He said, son, I've come today sincerely to tell you that I want to be your friend. I've missed a lot of years, and I feel bad about that. And I've never known how. As you know, with my dad, I just never have known. But I want you to know I'm here today. I want to find out from you, what will it take to be your good friend? Big tears well up in this son's eyes, start dripping down here, And of course, I'm getting all choked up. I'm choked up telling the story. And then Dad, who's probably, times I've known him, I've never seen him cry or get choked up. And here's big tears from his dad. His dad stands up and walks over to his son. His son stands up, and then they just hold each other and melt in each other's arms. Of course, I'm just weeping right there. He sought his forgiveness. He said, how can we start? And his son said, why don't we play golf today? Let's start with that. And they started that. Now I know they've been together off and on. They spend time together. Well, we did that. He actually went from that experience, because I didn't go with him again, to his daughters. And then I heard back from his daughters how excited they were that my dad thinks enough of me, and the warranty's up on all that. He took the responsibility. He's going to his children and starting that new generation. It'll affect his kids forever. Another story of a man who heard this type of presentation and thought to himself, my dad's an alcoholic, but maybe I can do something as the son. I don't want to keep passing on the same unhealthy behavior that I received from my dad. So I'm going to start the ball rolling. So it doesn't have to be the dad. It could be a child. And this man, of course, was in his late 30s, And he said, I'm going to call my dad. I've never done this in my whole life. And just think of how uncomfortable and uneasy he would feel. But he said, I'm going to call my dad and tell him I love him during the conversation. His dad wasn't a real talker. So he calls his dad all the way across the country and says some small talk with his dad and said, Dad, incidentally, I've been just thinking about you lately. I want to tell you that I love you. Clink. His dad hung up. His dad hung up. He said, Dad, he hung up on me. And so he called him right back. He said, Dad, I was trying to tell you I love you. Clink. He says to his wife, I can't believe this. My dad's hanging up on me. I'm trying to tell him I love him. And his wife said, you just have to keep trying. So he waited a few days, called his dad up again, small talk for minutes. And Dad, don't hang up on me. I want to tell you something. I really love you. Clink. Hung up on him. Couldn't handle it. This is very important to understand that because that father had never heard other than his wife, and probably he wasn't receiving it from her, but his dad never said he loved him, so it was granddad, and who knows what great-granddad was doing. He couldn't handle it. So a few weeks go by. He didn't call him. All of a sudden, his mom calls all the way across the country to the son. She says, son, I don't know how to tell you this, but Dad's disappeared. He's gone. No note. He's run away. It's extremely abnormal behavior because the person was really affected by alcohol. And she said, he's disappeared. And we've looked everywhere. We've tried everything. He's gone. And I hate to tell you this because I know you wanted to do something with him. And he was crushed. A month later, he came home. He had checked himself into an alcoholic rehabilitation center, and he said to his wife, I want to love my son, and I want to be able to talk to my son about loving him and him loving me, and I couldn't do it with what alcohol was doing to me. And so he called his son. The son flew out to this state all the way across the country, and the two of them, now it doesn't always happen. It doesn't always end in a happy situation every case. But the two of them together started driving to the other brothers and sisters. And the first brother they came to, they didn't call ahead of time. He screamed, ran out of the house, got in his BMW and left. And said, never come in my home. I never want to see you again as long as I live. What does that show you? Deep, deep, deep anger inside that son towards his dad. His dad was trying to clear things up with him, but he wasn't interested. Now, I haven't heard the rest of the story. So the dad's continuing to try different ways. That's new generation. That's assuming responsibility. And it's exciting. In fact, this year, for the first time, I don't know if it's ever been done in the history of mankind, but 50,000 men came to Colorado and made a statement. And they said, we are tired of whatever the old generations are. And it's the first time I've ever had a chance to speak to 50,000 men, but they came saying, we're not blaming anybody anymore. We want to learn how to love God, and we want to learn how to love our wife and our kids. And they were starting a new generation, and that's going to spread. Incidentally, a lot of these men came from various countries of the world, so this will spread because there is a movement today with men and women saying, enough is enough. We're going to take responsibility and start going where we ought to be going. Well, it also, we take responsibility by seeing the need for the change. I mean, we have to see it. If we don't see it, it's not as powerful. The story that gripped me was the little boy who had a strong father who was a workaholic. He had the same kind of father, so oftentimes our addiction to work comes right out of the relationship we had with our mom and dad. And the little boy, his dad was reading the paper one Saturday morning. He came up to him and started pulling on his dad's shirt early in the morning. And the dad had a rule that you don't bother me when I'm doing certain things. And one of them was when I'm trying to read the paper. And he says, what? And he said, Daddy, he said, I have $8.54 in my hand. It's all the money I have. And I'll give it all to you if you'll play with me this morning. What does that say? Well, it broke the dad. I mean, he said, I cannot believe what I'm communicating to my son. We got a letter from the dad talking about how that moved him to the place where he said, I'm going to start doing things with my son. No son of mine is going to have to bring everything he owns to get me to play with him in the morning. So that's the kind of dramatic thing. Let me ask this question. How many of you And I know I'm bringing all kinds of feelings up, with all of us and myself included. And yet I know it's possible to change. And so when we get to the second point, that's the key point. But how many of you would appreciate from time to time your mom and dad calling you wherever they live in the country and just saying, I love you, just thinking about you today, and I sure love you a lot. How many of you love that? Appreciate that. Okay, I want the cameras, keep your hands up, because I want the cameras to see this, because I want people who are viewing this video to look at this crowd. And there are moms and dads thank you. There are moms and dads who are watching this that are thinking, I don't need to call my kids. What do they need to hear from me for? We all need to hear that. If my parents were living today, I'd love to have my dad call me up and say, look at this. I lost him when I was a junior in high school, and look at the effect it has on me even today. Because my dad never told me he loved me. Never, ever said he was pleased or proud. I can't remember any of that. Would I like it today? Yes, I would. And I would love it if my dad would have been with those 50,000 guys and said, let's start a new generation. Is it important? Oh, it's important. Dr. John Trent, co-author with me on many of these books, 41 years old, trained psychologist, counselor, speaker, author. Does he need to hear he's loved by his dad? Absolutely. His dad left him 3 months after he was born. And he never saw his dad until he was like 16 years of age. And then he wished he hadn't. And all his life, he was trying to connect, is that not true, with his dad. And at one time, he put him in the hospital because he was drinking too much and he was having problems. He put him in the hospital, and his dad was on some kind of drugs or whatever, and John was always taking care of him and helping him and waiting for the day that maybe my dad will say, I love you. So this particular day, he said, Dad, I love you, as he was leaving, and his dad said, John, I love you too. He turned around. That was the first time, 41 years of age. My dad said, I love you. So we were on a national radio talk show that night, and John was on with me. He said, I want to tell everybody this is an exciting day. My dad said he loved me for the first time. This is a psychologist saying this. And it made me realize how valuable this is. Now, look at what happened. The next day, he goes back to the hospital. He says, Dad, I really appreciate what you said to me yesterday. He said, do you think you could call my brothers and tell them the same thing? His dad said, what? He said, well, you told me you loved me yesterday. Oh, John, I was on some kind of drug or something. Golly, I didn't mean that. Just like that, I was snatched right away from me. He came back to the office it's like it didn't matter to him. Do you think that dad understood? Not really. His dad treated him the same way, granddad same way. John doesn't have any blame fibers in him at all. I don't see him saying, I'm not happy and I'm not successful because of my dad. No, not at all. His dad passed away this last year, never said that to him, never blessed him, never did anything for him. But John knows that the way you start new generations is assume the responsibility. And so that's really how this happens. So that's the first one. That's only the first one. But it's a powerful one. And as I mentioned, there are many of these things we could do, but the second one is the most powerful. And I'm aware that some of you have never had this experience, and some of you may resist having this experience. But I want to preface what I'm going to say by telling you that I could tell you any number of things, right? I'm telling you the things that I have watched with my eyes and experienced for myself that have been the most effective. This point that I'm going to share with you is the most effective. It's the best thing that I know of. And to see lasting change and overcome even addictions or you name it. Now, I'm going to illustrate it this way. A couple years ago, I saw two families married about the same number of years, about 18, 20 years. One family, the wife sneaked while the husband was at work, got a friend to drive her to the airport, and she flew to another state to leave her husband and to divorce him. And the divorce is almost final. They've been trying to do different things, but it isn't working out. Another family married almost the same number of years. The husband, in this case, said, I'm leaving. I've had it with you. I can't take this anymore. I'm out of here. And he starts to leave. He goes outside. There's tremendous conflict. The wife picks up the telephone, just like dialing 911. She called two people. These were two people in their small support group that they meet in week after week after week. And within 15 minutes, two men were there. just like an emergency vehicle. And the first one walked into the house, found him and gave him a big hug and said, I love you. And he says, I know you're in big trouble right now. I mean, I can hear what's going on, but I just want to tell you that we can make this. It'll work. We're going to stick with you. And I know it seems impossible, but it's going to work. He said, I don't want it to work. I've had it with her. I'm done with all this stuff. It isn't working. I've tried too many years. He's still holding on to him saying, it will work. Trust me, we can work this out. No, it's not going to work. Reinforcements came. The other guy came and he said, let's walk around the block. So they started running around the block and both of them panting, because neither one were runners. And when they got about halfway around, the husband stopped and just started weeping out of control. And that friend grabbed him, put his arms around him and said, I know it's tough, but you have us. We're going to make it. That couple is together today versus the couple that's not. Now, you and I know of couples all over this country where they don't stay together. The second point that is the most powerful of anything I know of is to get into a small, healthy support group. This can be, actually you can, in a counselor can be a support group. But if you have 2 or 3 friends, no more than 8. So like 6 to 8 is really the best. But when we get into a healthy support group, there are reasons, which I'll go into, why this is so powerful. When you make those New Year's resolutions, if you're not in a support group, the experts in this area say pretty much it won't follow through. But there's some dynamics that take place in a small support group that make it happen. And there are all kinds of support groups, as you know. Alcoholics Anonymous, Drugs Anonymous, people who look like Hitler and can't face themselves. People who have caught big fish and nobody believed them. That's the group I need to be in. And I really did catch that big of it and did get away. Well, there are all kinds of groups, but now here's an important point in thinking about it. And I recognize that I'm going to be trying to encourage you to look into this area. So I'm going to give you the information that I have observed. But you can't get into just any group. You can't say, oh, what a great idea. Let's get the neighbors together. See, that may be an unhealthy group, or it may gravitate into an unhealthy group. If you're in a group where you're blaming each other and blaming your man, let's say a group of women say, well, good idea. We'll have coffee and something in the morning if we can, or in the evening, and then we'll just start ragging on our husband. See, that'll be an unhealthy group, because if you're blame-oriented, then that's unhealthy. And that won't give you what you want. It has to have the freedom, and you have to feel the safety. It has to have a couple of things. It has to be a very specific purpose. Whatever your addiction is, or whatever your habit you want to break is, whatever, if you want to be a better parent, if you want to be a better mate, if you want to be a better friend, if you want to be more mature, whatever you want to change about yourself, you got to get into a group that has the purpose for that area. And you have to align yourselves with other people that have like-minded purpose. You can't just get into a mixed group that says, well, I want to go in this direction, I want to go in this direction, because usually that doesn't work and it gets into unhealthy areas. Second thing, you can't really have more than 8. Because, see, it has to be healthy. And a healthy group has to be able to think without being shamed. You have to have the freedom and the safety to be able to think, and people aren't going to jump on you immediately. You have to have the freedom to talk. See, if you have 12 people in a group, then usually there's one with a personality that won't say much. So you have to have a smaller group, 6 to 8. So you have the freedom to talk. So somebody actually says to you, tell us what you think about this, or what do you want to say about this? Okay, so you have to have that freedom. Then you have to have the freedom to feel. I really feel down. Whatever your feeling is, and somebody comes over and puts their arm around you, there is nothing on earth that's more encouraging to be in a small group and really be hurting and have a couple of people come over and give you a big hug and say, you know, we love you, and we're going to make it together. It'll happen. You go, oh, thank you. Trying to do it alone, like the lone sheep, the wolves look for that kind of person. But when you get into a pack, a group, there's strength in it all by itself. So you can be, and then you get connected when you're in that small group. So this is what I have found has been very effective in the lives of people. And I'll be even going into it and showing you with a handout how you can actually find a group that fits you. So we don't just leave you saying take medicine, but we don't tell you how to get that medicine. Here's what small groups do. 2 powerful things they give us anytime we want it. Number 1, a small group gives us energy to stay committed to our purpose. It gives us energy. It actually strengthens us. It gives us hope and encouragement. I have come many times to small groups, even as the leader, and we usually were in marriage groups, strengthening our marriage. I'd come in knowing I'd blown it all week long, thinking, oh no, they're going to ask me how I'm doing this week. And feeling kind of low. And then seeing another couple or two so excited that they weren't doing well the last week, and they've changed, and I go, whoa, if that person can do it, I can do it. So it gives me instant hope. And that happened week after week after week after week. I remember one night, and I was the leader of this one small group, and the couples were gathering in my living room. And one of the guys came in and kind of folded his arm on the couch and, glared around everybody. I thought, oh, this will be a great evening. And a few seconds later, his wife came in, and her eyes were all red and puffy. She sat across the room from him, which we encouraged anyway. But this night, she was not going to sit next to him for sure. And I opened the group, and I thought I might as well start with him. So I said, Jim, how's it going this week? He said, terrible. I said, oh. I said, you want to talk about it? He said, yeah, I want to talk about it. I've been thinking about getting out of this marriage group, but I'm changing my mind. I want out of my marriage. I can't stand living with that woman another day. But this was being said in my living room. This was a marriage group. And it was instant tension in the room. The wives all did the same thing spontaneously. They all glared at him and went to her to comfort her. And all the guys, we did the same thing instantly. We didn't know what to do, so we looked at each other. So I was the leader of the group, and so I said, why don't we close in prayer? And which is exactly what we did, because it was so much heavy atmosphere that we couldn't go on. Everybody left immediately, and left them with me. And I said, why don't we get together the next day? And we got together the next day, and here's what was said. I said, I know it's tough, and I know it looks impossible, and it just seems to you right now that this will never work out, but let me tell you something. This will work because we're here for you. You can call us anytime. All of us are here for you. We all love you. It will work. They came week after week after week. They're still together today. They got 2 lovely children. We never lost, and I know this isn't going to be true in every situation, but we never lost any couples to divorce over a 3-year period when we had several small groups going, because what happened is that the small groups would not allow them to divorce. They loved them. Yeah, good. They wanted to. I can assure you they wanted to. And some very interesting things happened in these meetings. One husband turned his chair around during the meeting one time and faced away from the group. He says, nobody understands me. My wife doesn't understand me, and I'm done with this group. He says, this is my expression of it. I said, don't you want to say anything tonight? No, I'll just sit here facing away. These kinds of things happen to the group. One night, a wife jumped up, and she didn't scream, but it was almost a scream. And you know how when people get real tense, their neck blotches out, all these red spots, and she stood up, and the neck just blotched out, and I went, whoa, what's going on here? And she said, my husband is so abusive. And he was just, like this. And all of us and she ran into the bathroom and locked the door. And all of us, literally, and I mean, this isn't going to happen in every small group, but I don't make you afraid of it. But all of us gathered around outside the bathroom door and said, come on out. It's safe here. We love you. He's promised that he's not going to say that type of stuff anymore. And she says, no, I don't want to come out. I'm so embarrassed now. So we just stayed there until she finally opened the door. And then we hugged her, said, we love you. And it's okay. You're safe here. That's such a key point. Listen to what this does for us, ladies and gentlemen. When we are not parented the way we could have been in a healthy environment, a small group that is healthy reparents us. You ever want to know how to learn how to be the right husband, wife, friend? We get reparented in a small group because we get all the healthy things we should have: thinking, talking, feeling, connecting. And there's a boundary in there because we're safe. And we actually get the chance to see other men treating their wife in context right there. And we can see it with our eyes. And so men, incidentally, learn best by seeing a model. How else are we going to learn? And also, I can't explain this, ladies, and I wish I understood all the reasons, but men tend to learn best by other men telling us what to do. You can tell us until you're blue in the face, and we go, nice idea. But we get in a small group, and I can't explain it, but another man will say it in a small group and say, hey, I hear what you're saying right now, and I think what you ought to do is such and such. Now, we're capable of saying, well, I don't see you doing it either, and getting into a discussion as men, but you know what? I'll take it from him. And it makes sense for me, and I'll do it. And it's powerful. I can't explain all the reasons, but I watched it happen over and over again, and I watched these couples get stronger and stronger and healthier. All of us did. And this is a sideline, and I can't tell you any of the research behind this, but every one of the men and women became more financially secure and made more income. And we went 3 years after this was over, we were all kind of evaluating what's happened. Everybody realized that we were all making more income. And we thought that one of the reasons is that we'd all become better communicators, because part of our small group was to read the facial, nonverbal expressions of our wife and of each other, husband and wife. We were learning how to communicate, because week after week after week, that's exactly what happened. Well, this is the first reason why small groups are so valuable. It gives us the support, the energy we need to keep going. If you've got an addiction, if you're in a small group and people love you, that gives you the energy to keep moving on. And you can call somebody if you get tempted. That's all set up like that. Alcoholics Anonymous has the 12-step program. Part of the 12-step program is to get us connected so we're supported by other people. You can't do it alone. It's too much pain that we experience as children to do this type of thing alone. Second reason small groups are so powerful and important is because they give us accountability. We get support and then accountability. You know what accountability is? All during the week, you know that when you get there, whatever night it is you meet, that somebody's going to ask you how you're doing. And it's just a pressure all week long. And as you start to say something real controlling or insensitive to your wife, you go, I better not say that. Because if I say it, she'll bring it up. Because you have the freedom to say, how's it going this week? And we were real transparent. And it was a healthy experience. In fact, I remember one lawyer in our group at such a difficult time admitting when he was wrong. But part of our small group strategy was, let's keep short accounts and have the anger out of each other and seek forgiveness when we need to. And we always asked each other week after week, how's that going? So one time he came to my door at my house, turned to his wife and said, okay, I was wrong this week. Will you forgive me? Because he knew that when he got inside, somebody's going to ask him. And what he didn't realize is that his wife told this story when we got inside. So he went, so sometimes you do feel like you're in the hot seat, but it's so healthy because you're able in a safe environment to admit it. Okay, I see. Okay, this is what I did last week, but I want to do something different next week. And that's where the healthiness comes. It's the accountability. I don't think it's any surprise that the most effective small group organizations in the world, like Alcoholics Anonymous, are effective. Of the 12-step program, 4 of the steps have to do with faith in God. So that when we have a meaningful personal faith in God, obviously that is a major factor in helping us change, in changing us, in giving us the strength to keep going. Our value system, everything else is connected with our faith in God. So that comes out and can come out of a healthy small group. So that when we're allowed to talk, allowed to think, allowed to feel, allowed to connect, these are the things that make it effective. And what I wanted to do in closing this session is I want to introduce you to a couple that I've known, the last 6-7 years, something like that. And their kids were involved in sporting events along with my kids, and we got to know each other on the sideline of sporting events. And we got involved. I can tell this is going to be hard for you. We got involved. Come on up if you can. You think you can come up? All right.
Start with those. Is this on?
Yeah, I think it is.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, come on up here.
Yeah, start with those sad stories and then bring me up here.
Yeah. This is a couple that I've grown to love, Rich and Penny Tenzio, and they're an example of what I would love to see spread all over the world. I mean, we're committed together, still together as a group, even though we're long distance now. I live in a different city. We still talk to each other on the phone, still committed as friends. And I just wanted you to hear their story because it's the kind of thing that I would love to see spreading all over the world. What happened?
What happened? First of all, when I was sitting there, I was trying to find a place where I could hide. Because after Penny tells this story, these women might want to start throwing stuff at me. So I thought,
That's true.
I better hide.
I'll shield you.
We need some Kleenex.
Kleenex, yes. We'll let Penny start.
Okay.
After a lifetime, an unhappy lifetime, I thought I'd marry someone and I'd have choices and I'd be happy. This guy, I thought, just loved me. He was crazy about me. It wasn't 4 days into our honeymoon that he changed completely. That all of a sudden he wouldn't look at me. He didn't laugh with me. He started blaming me for everything. He was angry all the time. I just couldn't do anything right, and I really tried. I thought, I don't want to make any mistakes. I wanted to stay married. I didn't want to be like everybody else. And I tried everything, and just everything was my fault. He took responsibility for nothing, so.
I can't believe you did that.
Yeah, I did.
Very angry. He was a road rager. He'd throw chairs at walls and hit walls. He used anger to control myself and the children. He constantly belittled us in front of people.
So what happened is Penny, first of all, what I want to say, this is really hard.
I'll come over here.
We wouldn't be standing up here today if it wasn't for Penny. She always took the initiative to find out things, and it was her that started the whole recovery process. She read a little book, and I think I'm doing better now.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you. This is a small group right here, right in front of you. Yes, that helped.
You'll make it.
Yes, thank you. Penny read this little book. I won't say the name of it, but she read it, and she kept on wanting me to read this book. And I don't know why, but I didn't read it for about 6 weeks. One day before work, this little book, she used to put it in places so I could see it. There it is on the coffee table before work, and I didn't have nothing to do for about an hour, so I sat down and I read it. This book blew my mind. I mean, whoa. The first 3 chapters were me.
Again?
Support. It was me the first 3 chapters. To this day, I still haven't read the rest of the book. But anyways.
You don't need to.
No. Oh, thank you. I sat down. I'll never forget this day. I sat down in the corner of my family room. I couldn't believe that I was doing those things. This lady was saying how her husband was, and I was exactly like this guy. So I made a commitment to become the husband and the father that God wanted me to be. What I did after that commitment, I just got all the marriage books I could get. I read all of Gary's material. The videos, matter of fact, my son and I just watched one about 2 months ago. And
all the seminars.
Yes, seminars. We went to 6 seminars. That's how slow I was. And then we found a good marriage counselor. And then what I did is we got into a small group like Gary was talking about. But I had the privilege and the honor to have a friend that I could meet with, a buddy. A buddy that I can meet with, that I could talk to. And it was really the first time I could ever really talk to anybody. And what we would do is he was talking about accountability. We would call each other's wives at the end of the week and see how we were doing 0 to 10. So you bet I was on my toes for the week. I mean, I was great. And it was so neat that one week we had a bet on who could do better by points.
I lost.
Yes, he lost. And yeah, he bought lunch that day. It was great. Spaghetti. The Olive Garden.
Spaghetti.
Yes, I still remember that. And then in the small support group, it was so neat because I can always remember at the end of the session, sometimes we would go around the room and say something nice about a person in the room that we really appreciated. God, I'd sit there, and the first time somebody said something about me, I'm like, man, is that ever neat? It really felt great. So every week I was waiting for that. Sometimes we say it before and sometimes after. So the small support group is really, really a biggie.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. It's today. I mean, this is 6 years later, and we're still learning. I mean, it
takes a lot of work. You work at a career, or you work at your physical body, you work at everything, but you always have to work at a marriage.
Yeah.
It's constant. There's all kinds of new communication skills coming in, and it's really worth it because, I've been married to 2 men, and I only had to go through one. So it's been nice.
And even though he works on a full-time job, he's going night school. Sometimes he can go in the morning. His job changes. He's going to become a counselor. And so I have a feeling he'll be a good counselor. That's the type of thing that I would love to have each couple up here saying that, hey, we were like this 6 years ago, but we've been working on it. We've been in a small group. We have found a counselor. You don't have to go to counselors all the time, but when you go to one or two and you go just for a short time just to get insights, I still go from time to time just to get tune-ups, just to hear new things and hear things that I need. And only the wise do that, seek out advice. So let me just encourage you to take responsibility. I challenge you to do that and get excited about what I'm going to hear from you 6 years from now.